everyone. Welcome to today's Pet Podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Roberta Westbrook, and you're here with us at the Campus for All Animals, the Houston SPCA. Thank you for joining us once again. Well, it's summertime. We're in the heat of the summer, and it's usually during this time that we begin to see animals that come to see their veterinarian because of things related to allergies, such as skin allergies, itching, licking the paws, and even ear infections. So I want to talk to you today about ear infections and how you might notice if your pet has one, how you know when to take your pet to the veterinarian, what your veterinarian may do to treat it, and some tips on how to keep your pet's ears clean and prevent those ear infections. So if you have questions about ear infections or allergies today, please go ahead and put those in the chat and hopefully I can help you. In the meantime, I want to invite you to come on down to our adoption center and meet with all of our puppies and kittens and dogs and cats that we have available for adoption. And part of that is introducing you to our pet of the week. Our pet of the week this week is Kona. Kona is available for adoption. She's about a 3-year-old female. She is so sweet. She's a cattle dog. And Kona is extra special because Kona came to us because her parents, her former owner, is actually enlisting into the military and going to serve our country. And so Kona needs to find a new forever home. And so we are encouraged by that. We know that there's going to be a perfect family out there for her. So come on down and visit with her. She's really great with people. She's even really good with kids. We have our critter camp going on and the kids are able to play with Kona with no problem. So we encourage you to visit us every day from 11 a.m. to 6 p.m. Now, if you have any questions about ear infections, please go right ahead and put those in the chat. In the meantime, I'm going to get you started on talking about ear infections. So the first thing that you may want to know is just a little bit about the ears of our dogs and cats and how they might differ from human ears. So one little brief description is the ears of dogs and cats typically are kind of pointy. And I'm doing this. I'm not making a funny face at you. What I'm doing is demonstrating the shape of the ear canals in dogs and cats. So the shape of the ear canal in dogs and cats is actually like an L. And so this tall part of the L is actually the pinna, the part that sticks up or might be flopped over, the part that we see. And then if we were to follow the ear canal down, what we would notice is that right here, before it turns into the short end of the L, that's where the tympanic membrane or the eardrum is. Past that tympanic membrane, we are going into the inner part of the ear. So the ear canals are shaped like an L. That's a significant difference from people whose ear canals are just straight in and they're just kind of like a straight line, like so. And that actually contributes to the way that we clean the ears and ways that we examine the ears as veterinarians.
And so what are the different types of ear infections our pets usually get, especially with all the different shapes of it or types?
Yes, the most common thing is what we call otitis. Otitis is a term that means inflammation of the ear. Otitis externa. Externa is that external portion of the ear canal that we can see with our naked eye without much trouble. So when you look inside your dog's ears and you might take the pinna, the external part, and pull it back or flip it over, all of the part that you can see, the little crevices and the folds of the ear, we call all of that the external ear canal. Everything kind of in front of and outside of the tympanic membrane or the eardrum. It's most common that we see animals that have otitis externa, especially if they're first or second ear infection. We see that fairly frequently. Now, as ear infections progress, sometimes they can affect the tympanic membrane or the eardrum, which is part of the middle ear. We call that otitis media. And then if it goes past the eardrum, there are some small little organs that help your pets be able to hear that are way far inside the ear canal, past the tympanic membrane. If those organs become affected, we call that otitis interna. And that typically happens when the ear infection is progressed, or it happens multiple times in chronic cases of ear infections.
So how do we recognize if our pet does have an ear infection?
So how do you know if your pet has an ear infection? One of the first things that you might notice is your pet becomes aware of his or her ears and they're becoming a little bit bothered by them. You might notice that by scratching at the ears. So that's a very common sign, and not occasionally. You know, the occasional scratch at the ears, pets are going to do that. But if you're noticing they're seeming extra concerned and maybe even painful in the ears, they're scratching, and whenever they scratch, they make kind of a whining sound like, sometimes you'll notice that. That could mean that their ears are a little bit sensitive and irritated. And then you may want to look inside the ears. So that means taking the external ear canal, that ear pinna, pulling it back. And you may notice redness. You might notice swelling. And you might even notice two other things: a foul odor, a bad smell coming from there, and discharge. Now, the discharge or material that you see could be a wide variety. You could see brown discharge, green discharge, yellow discharge, but sometimes it has a very foul smell if they have an ear infection. So those tend to be the signs. In some cases, you may also notice that your pet is tilting his or her head to one side or the other, and that's usually because that side is a little bit sensitive and they're sort of favoring it there. So scratching at the ears, tilting the head, whining, or you're noticing redness, swelling, or discharge. Those might be signs to get your pet to the veterinarian right away so that they can start you on medication for your pet.
Which leads me to the next question. How are these infections going to be treated at the vet's office, or can we treat at home?
Yeah, so once your veterinarian does an exam on your pet's ears, your veterinarian is going to want to diagnose your pet officially with an ear infection. So typically what we will do as veterinarians is we will take a sample of the discharge in your pet's ears if we notice anything. Now, we typically will take that sample with what we call a cotton-tipped applicator. It looks very similar to a Q-tip, but we encourage you not to use Q-tips at home. But we will typically take a cotton-tipped applicator, and we do not go inside the ear canal. Never go all the way inside the ear canal with a cotton-tipped applicator. But what we might do is take this cotton-tipped applicator and just use it around the external crevices of the ear, the discharge that we can see, so that we can scoop some of it out. And we typically will put it on a microscope slide and then look at that slide under a microscope so that we can see all the little bugs that might be in your pet's ears. So we diagnose your pet with an ear infection, and then based on what we see, is it bacteria? Is it yeast? Is it both? Then your veterinarian will prescribe you the best medication based on what we see under the microscope for your pet.
So then there's no treatments that we can do at home. It's just the medication that the veterinarian provides.
Great question. Once your pet is diagnosed with an ear infection, you have to get a prescription medication from your veterinarian. There's nothing that you're going to be able to use at home to really kill off that bacteria or that yeast once an infection has set up. You want to get something that's prescribed. Now, certainly there are things that you can do to help to prevent an infection from setting in. For example, when your pet, maybe you give your pet bi-weekly or weekly baths. When you do that, sometimes the water and the soap will get in your pet's ears. If that is not dried or cleaned out, what it happens is it leaves a moist, warm, dark environment, which is a perfect environment for bacteria and yeast to begin to proliferate. So whenever your pet gets wet, you give them a bath, they swim in the pool, maybe they went to the lake with you last weekend and they were swimming in the lake. Whenever the ear canals get wet, you always want to make sure that we dry them out and clean them out afterwards so that that moisture doesn't set in and bacteria and yeast don't set in. So that's something that you can do to make sure that your pet is not at an increased risk for ear infections, making sure the ear canals are clean and dry. You don't have to clean the ears every day. The ears are magical in that way that they're considered self-cleaning organs. But if your pet is doing something special like swimming, then you might have to clean them after they get wet.
And then what are the consequences of having an untreated ear infection?
An untreated ear infection it can be pretty painful for your pet and have some consequences, even up to hearing loss. So animals that have chronic ear infections, what can happen is that infection goes from becoming otitis externa, where it just affects this visible long portion of the ear, to going past the tympanic membrane or the eardrum and getting into the middle and inner ear. When that occurs, more serious symptoms might happen. So what we may notice is a more serious head tilt. Your pet can become off balance, and that's because past the tympanic membrane, when we're getting into the middle and inner ear structures, there can be it can affect the nerves that go to the ear and that affect balance. So sometimes we might see animals that have a really severe head tilt to one side or other, depending on which side is most affected. We notice that they may be off balance in some cases. We can notice that they even begin to have trouble with their eyelids drooping or their third eyelid becoming elevated. And that's all because there are some nerves that innervate or that go to the face. And when those nerves get affected, we can even see facial changes. So it's really important that if you're noticing signs of ear infection, that you get it treated and have your veterinarian check right away. They will also take a tool like this called an otoscope, and they will look inside your pet's ears and make sure that the tympanic membrane is not compromised, because that will give us a clue about how far this ear infection has passed, and they can treat your pet more efficiently that way.
Question is, my dog hates ear infection, the medications, and shakes it off right away. What are some tips to help us put the medication in, make sure it does its job?
Yes, your pets are very smart. And when they have an ear infection and you've been given the job of treating them on a daily basis, your pets begin to recognize when you're coming their way. And they begin to recognize when you're coming that way, especially if you're holding in your hand a bottle that looks like this and a tube of medication that looks like this. Once they see this come out of the cabinet, they're hiding under the bed and you might be having to dig them out. So, it does always help if you have a partner to help you, because it would be wonderful if you had someone to love on your pet and pet them and make them feel good about the process while you are gently cleaning the ears. So what you want to do is have all of your materials ready and out. So gathering some cotton balls is going to be important. And then having your ear cleaner that your veterinarian has prescribed and medication that your veterinarian has prescribed already out and ready. And then you want to have someone have treats available and have a partner who's going to be able to hold your pet. Then you can start really two ways. Hi, sweetheart. Hi, Kona. So if your pet's never had his or her ears cleaned, you could do this a couple of ways. You can take a cotton ball and we'll come down here, Kona. Kona doesn't have an ear infection, so we're just going to pretend here. But you can take a cotton ball and we're just going to pet her here. And you can take this cotton ball, and sometimes I will pre-soak the cotton ball with the ear cleaner. So I'll pre-soak this. And then Kona's like, this is probably what you go through when your pet is wanting to get his or her ears cleaned. They're just trying to get away from you. And we won't force Kona if she doesn't want to. We'll just play with her. But essentially, I will pre-soak this cotton ball. And then if she lets me, when we're looking at her ears, yeah, she doesn't want to have her ears cleaned. You guys are dealing with this all the time. So we're giving a lot of treats. But we pre-soak this, and then we can use the cotton ball to wipe out the external portion of the ear. And sometimes that can be a good way to start. But if they don't like that, or actually if they do well with that, I should say, another way that you can do it is take the ear cleaner and gently pour the solution into the ear canal. And you want to fill the ear canal almost to where the solution begins to fall out of the ear canal. And then you want to massage the base of the ear, like so. Just massage. I think Kona knows what we're up to. And you want to massage the base of the ear. And you want to swish all of that solution around in the base of the ear. And then you can take additional cotton balls, put the cotton balls inside the ear and squish it around. What the cotton ball is going to do is it's going to absorb all of the solution along with the debris that's in the ear. Do that several times until your cotton ball is coming out clean. So step one, gather all your materials. Step two, determine whether you want to first take a cotton ball, soak the cotton ball with ear cleaner, use a cotton ball to clean the external ear canal, just use it to wipe out the ear canal. Or if you're going to try the second option, which is to take the solution and pour it inside the ear. You're trying to get it? She's like, I don't know. But you would massage the base of the ear kind of like this. If I had poured this in, I would massage the base of the ear canal, and then it would swish, it would loosen up all that discharge, swish it around, and then I could use the cotton ball. I could use the cotton ball in here, and we could squish it around like this. Oh, does that feel good? We could use a cotton ball to clean out the ears, and then when I would take the cotton ball out, it would have all of the debris and discharge on there. But her ears are already very clean, and she knows that. She's like, I take care of my ears. So that's essentially what you would do if you needed to clean your pet's ears. Then it's important that after you clean your pet's ears, you're probably going to have to put some medication in your ear. Always wait until the solution dries. You want to wait about 15, maybe up to 30 minutes until the solution dries before you put medication in your pet's ears. Your veterinarian and your veterinary team can also show you how to do this, because the medication oftentimes has a nozzle like so. So it oftentimes has a nozzle like this, a long nozzle that you use to pour the medication in your pet's ears. Your veterinarian or your veterinary technician can show you how to use this so that you can put the medication in the ear very safely, okay? So this helps you to get it way down deep, because remember the ear canal is an L shape. This nozzle helps us to be able to put that medication a little bit further down in the ear and make sure it coats that entire ear canal there. So this is a very handy little tool there for the medication. So once you do that, you may have to do this every day for a week or two, depending on your veterinarian's prescription. There are some medications out there that can help. Your veterinarian may be able to prescribe a medication that just gets put in one time and only one time a week. So we've made some advancements where sometimes we don't have to do it every day. There are some medications that you can put in the ear canal. They last a full week, and then you can go back to the veterinarian and determine whether or not your pet needs a second dose. But that prevents you from having to clean those ears every day and have interactions where your pet's running from you on a daily basis. So yeah, so that's our demonstration. Thank you, Kona.
Okay, so are there any breeds that are more prone to ear infections?
Oh, that's a great question too. So what breeds are more prone to ear infections? You know, we talked about the ear canal being sort of this L shape. There are some breeds of dogs that don't have tall, open ear canals. Sometimes the ear pinna and the ear canal is short and what we call stenotic or narrow. And those breeds are breeds like Shar-Peis. They tend to have very, floppy ears that curl over, but then the ear canal is not wide and open. It's really narrow, like this. And they're, so their ear canal is pretty narrow. Well, that traps a lot of moisture, dirt, and debris, and it makes it more difficult for the ear canals to stay clean. So Shar-Peis are a breed that are more prone to ear infections. Also, dogs with long, floppy ears are pretty prone to ear infections. So Basset Hounds and Cocker Spaniels and Golden Retrievers, they tend to be prone to ear infections as well. And some of the reasons that they're prone to ear infections are also because some of those breeds tend to have allergies. And allergies are one of the underlying conditions for dogs that have recurrent ear infections. So make sure that if your pet has allergies, that you're taking your pet to the veterinarian and getting them treated for allergies.
That's so interesting that the allergies connect and cause these ear infections.
Yes, allergies in pets actually present as skin and ear infections. So when we have allergies to things in the environment, we might cough or sneeze, and certainly dogs and cats can do that as well. But it's more common when they have an allergy to something in the environment like dust or mold that they actually get skin infections and they'll lick their paws a lot, or they'll get ear infections.
And then chronic ear infections, what is it considered chronic, and how do we prevent them from happening again? Or, what are the solutions for those chronic ear infections?
Yeah, so the chronic ear infections are the ones that recur. Maybe they're happening every couple of months, multiple times a year. Or even over the course of your pet's lifetime. Really, the way to prevent that is to get to the underlying cause. So as we mentioned, for a lot of these pets, the underlying cause may be allergies. And so figuring out what that allergy is and removing it from their environment is going to be key. So if they have an allergy to the environment, we might notice that during the spring and the summer that they tend to be more itchy. That's when they get the ear infections. There are medications now that your veterinarian can prescribe to help decrease that allergic reaction and hopefully prevent those infections. There's not a whole lot we can do about the conformation of the ears. So those dogs that have long floppy ears or stenotic ear canals, there's not a whole lot we can do about that except just making sure those ears stay clean and that we cut down on the amount of moisture that's built up there.
So should we shave the hair within the ear canal?
That's a great question. So if you have a dog like poodles and Shih Tzus and Lhasa Apsos, they actually tend to have a lot of ear hair, which also traps moisture and dirt and debris. That can be another underlying cause for ear infections. When you take your dog, one of these breeds, to the groomer, for example, for their haircut, your groomer or even your veterinarian can pluck the hairs. So we can use tools to kind of remove the hair very gently. And once we remove the hair, it opens up the ear canal. There's more air that circulates through there to keep the ear canal dry, and it does not trap dirt and debris. So yes, it could be necessary to pluck some of the ear hair, and if it's trapping a lot of dirt and debris, or to get all of that discharge out.
And can ear infections be contagious if from one ear to another, or from one dog to another?
You know, not typically. They aren't considered contagious. You might notice that if one of your pets has an ear infection, that the others tend to be attracted to it. They want to lick at it, and they want to, kind of pay attention to that and provide some nursing care. But no, in general, ear infections that are caused by bacteria or yeast are not contagious. Now, there are some ear infections like ear mites. Ear mites are little bugs that actually can be contagious. They are mites that live inside the ears. Dogs can get ear mites, cats can get ear mites, guinea pigs can get ear mites. And so if your pet has been diagnosed with ear mites, then absolutely, if they're in close contact with each other, those ear mites could spread from one pet to another. So you want to make sure you keep them separate if you're dealing with ear mites.
And can cats, get infections just as much as dogs?
Cats can get ear infections. Absolutely. We see ear infections in cats as well. Maybe not as often, but we certainly see them. And the same applies. It's going to be a matter of keeping the ears clean and using medication that your veterinarian prescribes on a regular basis to make sure that those ear infections get treated and that they don't become chronic. But certainly your cats can have the same affection as well. Well, we thank you so much for joining us today on today's Pet Pawcast. So notice if your pet seems bothered by his or her ears, that you get them in to see a veterinarian, and they can give you all the tools and tricks to help you get your pet's ears treated quickly and easily and hopefully pain-free. So it's summertime. If you're looking for something to do and you need a buddy for the summer, maybe you're going jogging or running and you're looking for a partner, please come on down and look for one of our dog partners for you, our VIPs that can maybe spend the summer with you. So right now, all of our large dogs are very important pups. And because of that, we want to provide an adoption fee for you that is good for you and good for the pets, and that will help them get into wonderful homes. So come on down and visit us from 11 a.m. to 6 p.m. daily. All large dog adoptions are just $10. And with that $10, your pet comes fully vaccinated and with flea and tick and heartworm prevention and a free exam at VCA. So we'll tell you more about all that comes with when you come visit us. We've got lots of dogs available for you to consider taking into your family. So thank you so much for listening to us today on the Pet Pawcast, and I will see you next week. I'm your host, and I'll see you later. Bye-bye. Okay.